Hello guys, we are back in new fanfic, and if enjoying this then please share and like part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Naruto and Tenten decided to spend some time in Wave. Ever since the mission in Suna, Tenten has grown a serious loving for Naruto, but doesn't want to tell for fear of being rejected. After all, she's only known him for so long, and even a fool could tell that he used to be, and or still is, in love with Cherry Blossom. She's never liked Sakura that much. The fact that she used to hate Naruto like he was a demon and that she got to become her idol's apprentice pissed her off big time. The second was short-lived as she got over it soon. All that mattered now was telling him. "You okay?" he asked, noticing she was not moving. Once she noticed he was talking to him, she blushed madly and straightened herself, moving onward to the village. Not one for understanding women, he just goes along with her, in hopes to see Inari, Tsunami, and Tazuna. But regardless of not knowing anything about them, he did have a fling for older women. In fact, he was traveling with one and going to see another. Hopefully he can tell Tenten about his feelings for her. Land of Wave. Naruto. That is who plagued her mind. Tsunami was sitting in her bedroom thinking about a certain blonde baka she met 3 years ago. She never mentioned it to anyone, but after being saved by him that day has given the woman a brand new love for him. These said feelings never lingered, even with his 3-year absence. In fact, it only made her stronger to live on longer and healthier in case she meets him again. Of course she did go out with a couple of guys, but she stopped after remembering more about him. Tsunami tried to block him out, even dating women was done, and she even liked being bi. But alas, she still wanted him. Oh, how I've always wanted to see him again. If just for one day, if just for one night. I just want to express my love for him. I don't know how long I can wait. She thought, squeezing her legs together, just thinking about how much he's probably grown. Sighing, she walks towards her bed, falling into deep slumber, and maybe having many icky dreams. 4 days later, Tsunami was walking through town, holding a bag of groceries and such. She headed through town, passing by a statue of her secret blonde love in bronze while heading home. Ever since the fight at the bridge, Naruto has become somewhat of a celebrity, though not many have actually seen him. Only the surviving bridge builders, Tazuna, Inari, and the few townsfolk that came by to help in the bridge fight saw him. Yosh. This place is a lot easier to get to ever since the bridge was fixed. Naruto began. Tenten was taking in the sights of the now successful village hidden in the mist. There were children playing in the streets, business was doing fine, there was even a large statue of her secret love in the middle of. Wait, what? Tenten yelled, turning to face the large life-size version of Naruto in broad daylight. She pulled Naruto back and turned him to face himself. What the hell is this thing doing here? Naruto yelled out loud, causing a bunch of bystanders to turn towards them, noticing that he looked like the statue. They all rushed him, each giving out multiple questions, ranging from harmless children things like autographs and, "Can you show us your moves?" to more personal and, UAL things like, "Or his hand in marriage?" It was kinda stupid. And I feel even dumber for writing it. Using a replacement jutsu, Naruto and Tenten made it out of there, and rushed off for some random location. But what they didn't know was that this random location they went took them straight to a familiar house, the opposed home of Tazuna. Naruto didn't recognize it mostly because he doesn't remember it being bigger than before. Afraid that they might find them here, Naruto knocks on the door. The person who opens it was way beyond Naruto's guess, a more grown-up Inari. One look at the boy at the door and he was plunged in a flurry of tears. Inari ran up and hugged him. "Naruto Ni-chan, you returned," he yelled, causing the blonde to smile, and Tenten to bring up some questions in her mind. Who is he, and how does he know you, Naruto-kun?" she asked, not realizing her mistake. Naruto let go of Inari and turned to him. "Oh, he's Inari. We met the day of my first real mission. It was the one that made me decide my way of the ninja. Hey, since when do you call me Naruto-kun?" Tenten blushed again, realizing what she said. Just as she was blushing, someone came out the door, with a yellow yukata and black long hair. Inari, who's it? She paused as soon as she saw the face of the boy she continues to fantasize about, next to her son and some other girl his age she didn't recognize. Her face flushed with redness, and she blinked twice before looking at him again. Naruto-kun, you're here. Oh, I'm so glad to see you. She yelled, gripping onto the boy as tight as she could. Naruto blushed as he was enveloped in her chest, and what a nice chest he figured. While her attributes weren't so noticeable while she had on that kimono, but she was still big underneath. He also noticed that her hands were gripped onto his butt, but that was probably just an accident. Tenten saw her hands go there too, and slapped them away just as quick. This forced Tsunami to stop hugging the boy and look at Tenten. Oh, I'm sorry. Who are you exactly? Oh, her name is Tenten. She came with me on our vacation. This news was great for Inari, and extremely for Tsunami, for she had about until the time he had to go to tell him, because from the way this, Tenten, acted when she touched his, she must have some strong feelings for him as well. And judging from the fact that she's way older than Naruto, he might choose the kunoichi instead. So how's the old man doing? He asked, wondering why Tazuna hasn't heard about him being around. Tsunami sighed. San is in Iowa giving out something to the village leader. I forget what. Anyway, how would you like to stay with us? I'd figure you were a celebrity here and being here would help you stay low. Naruto punched the air in happiness. Yosh, I would love to stay, and have some of your delicious cooking. How about you, Tenten? Sure, but first you have to tell me about how you know them, and this mission. Tenten said, as they all entered into the house. 6 minutes later, Naruto had just finished explaining to Tenten the wave arc of his life, about Haku and how he helped with his purpose in life, Zabuza and how he changed just from hearing his words, and how Gato fell at the hands of the 5 ninjas, counting Zabuza, not counting the villagers. At the end, Tenten was in awe, and had even more respect and love for him than she could ever realize. Tsunami was listening to it and started falling in love again. Ka-san, why are you staring at Naruto and why is your face red? Inari asked, completely ignorant to females and their feelings. Tsunami blushed again, running upstairs to calm herself down. Tenten quickly caught on, and walked upstairs to have a word with her before she goes ballistic. Nantao, what's going on? Naruto asked, not knowing what was going on. Inari was out of it too. I'll never understand women, Inari said, then leaves to go to the kitchen, getting something to eat. Upstairs, Tenten had followed Tsunami upstairs to her room, which was real nice considering her room really ed. Tenten entered it, forcing Tsunami to turn around quickly. I have a question. Do you love Naruto-kun? She asked, looking at her closely. Tsunami gasped, realizing she has been caught red-handed. With nothing else to do, she sighs. It's true. I do love him, but I guess you have the same amount of love for him too, don't you? Now it was Tenten's turn to blush. I knew it. Look, I don't want to steal your love away from each other, I just want him to know, and give him as much appreciation as he deserves. What are you implying? Tenten asked, and that's when Tsunami began talking. The next morning 10 a.m. Tenten was stuck in a dilemma. She could ignore this woman's request and just go for Naruto himself and keep him away from her, or she lets her have a one-night stand with him and her the minute they confess and she can have Naruto for herself when they return. The second seemed like a good choice, but she wasn't sure if she was willing to share the man she loves. But considering the first choice was just basically breaking a woman's heart and maybe even hurting Naruto for keeping him away from a precious person of his, number 2 was best. I'll tell him, she resolved, going with Tsunami's proposal from yesterday. Naruto was outside eating some good oden with Inari. Man, your mother's cooking is the best, he says, eating the rest of the food. Inari, Tenten yells. The little boy looked at her as did Naruto. Your mother said to go out for an hour. No, wait, 2 hours. Wait, what? Why? he asked, as both him and Naruto were curious as to what was up. This seems a bit too out of the ordinary. But then again, he probably doesn't know her that much. I don't know. She just needs to talk to me and Naruto about something private that must never be repeated. Secret ninja stuff. Tenten then gave a wink and smile, completely convincing him to leave. As he moves on, Tenten grabs Naruto and runs off to upstairs, pushing him onto a bed. Tenten, what the? Not yet. Someone's coming. Tenten interrupted, not wanting to hear him now. He quickly quieted, then noticed Tsunami walking in too. She was wearing absolutely nothing, exposing her C-sized S, those rounded nipples, her slender smooth body, that tiny little belly button, and her wet vagina. He soon got a nosebleed, and this only grew when Tenten removed her clothes. Her S were a lot bigger than Tsunami's, but maybe that was because Tenten just uses her body more and indubitably drinks more milk. They do say that most women who neglect wanting to look wonderful somehow grow nicely. What is going on? He asked honestly. Naruto, I love you. I have before you left with that pervert Sanin. I've fallen for you in so many ways, all beginning with when you showed my best friend Neji the way out of destiny and fate. Tenten proclaimed, hoping he would believe her. Honestly, she really meant every word, but it did seem far-fetched. He then turned to Tsunami. And you are here for? He asked, not knowing why she was too. I love you too. I just wanted to show you my love and appreciation, and Tenten agreed. Tsunami said, sitting closer to him, and Tenten joining her. How can I say this? I really didn't think you two felt that way for me. I did have a crush on Tenten, and it grew into distant love. Tsunami, I always thought of you as a precious person of mine, but you are someone I would grow to love. So, I guess I can say, I love you too as well. Naruto finally makes out, causing the two girls to smile. Each of them jumped onto him and kissed the boy, but only Tenten made it to his mouth. She kissed the man she loved so passionately, gripping his hair and thrusting, probably knocking his teeth back. Her tongue slipped into his mouth as quickly as she started, and he fought back, their tongues lapping one another with so much saliva you could swim in it. Naruto's hands wandered down her waist, coming to her, and squeezing it tight, as she moaned within the kiss. Tsunami started kissing his neck, and rubbing the lump in his pants, making it bigger. Tenten and Naruto finally stopped to gasp for air. He didn't get as much as he needed, as Tsunami wet to his mouth and stuck her tongue in him too, making them both so horny from the kiss that it would make the actual even better. Soon they had to stop, and Naruto was almost desperate for air. The two girls went for his pants and shirt, ripping off the disgusting orange off and leaving nothing in the way of their treasure. I'm sure you can figure it out. Both girls were amazed by his size, an 8-inch, and he's only 15. He'll probably grow bigger later in life, but now didn't matter, for they grabbed his erection and Tsunami started ing it. I'll show you how it's done, she said, as Tenten sighed, settling for ing his testicles. Tsunami kissed the tip of his, already getting a loud moan from her new lover, putting the head in her mouth. She stayed like that, ing on it like that, until she went down and engulfed the fully, pushing Tenten off his balls. She then went back to what she was doing before, then released him from her mouth, whispering something in Tenten's ear. She giggles, and kisses the base of the valley, moving her mouth up and down from the bottom of the head to the top of his balls. Tsunami continued with her first activity, and Naruto was in heaven. Oh, God, Tenten, Tsunami, he came inside her mouth, as his seed was too much for her, it was even leaking from her mouth. She soon had to let off, allowing the semen to squirt in the air, and onto Tenten too. She licked it up easily, as Tsunami swallowed the semen in her mouth. That was so good. How's about we go now? Tenten said, laying on the bed on her back. Naruto was about to go to her, but Tsunami stopped her, then took his hand and placed it on her. Tenten moaned as soon as it touched her. Tsunami then took the other hand and placed it on her own, moaning just by the touch. Rub it, pump it. Make wet and ready before you us. She said, and he obliges. Naruto forced Tsunami on her back like Tenten, and began licking and pumping his tongue and fingers into there. Both of them moaned loudly, wondering how did a boy who was clueless about able to do something that could make them feel so good. Oh, oh, ah. Naruto-sama, please go some more. Tenten moaned like she was some pickup girl off the block. My god, I haven't felt so good since my husband did this to me. Ah, and Tsunami climaxed all over his hand. Soon Tenten moaned in the same frequency, and came all on him. Naruto removed his fingers, and moves towards them closer. So which of you wants it first? Tsunami wraps her legs around his waist, pushing his close to her vagina. It touches the surface, almost like it was going in, and then he pushed all the way in, causing her to scream very loud. It's too big. She yelled, squinting at the mass his is moving in her body. He stops moving in, but she pulls herself up. Don't stop. I'm used to it. Me hard. She poored, and he did his job. Naruto lifted her up and pounded deep into Tsunami as much as he could. Soon she started to become completely immune to it, and began bouncing up and down it like a horny schoolgirl. The pace was inhuman, and their timing was accurate. Harder. Faster. Please go harder. I want you so badly. She yelled, as they ed one another into total bliss. Soon her walls got too tight around him, and she got closer to her climax. Naruto, she yelled, as her juices poured onto his. Soon Naruto felt the walls in her become too unbearable, and he had no choice. He was about to lift her off, but she wanted him to finish. Wrapping her legs around him, she kept him from removing his. Do it inside me. I want your thick to fill me. I'll bear anything for that feeling. She yelled lustfully, and he shouted out, his cum shooting inside of her 3 times before dying out. She then collapsed onto the bed, and went into a deep slumber. Tenten was sitting on the far end enjoying the show and ing herself with her fingers. She settled Naruto on the bed, and sat on his, screaming from the sheer size stretching her insides and breaking down the defenses inside her. The pain was harsh, but she loved him, and didn't care. Soon the pain went away, and it felt so incredible. Tenten began bouncing up and down on Naruto, each pound stronger than the last, making it greater than the last, as she already came before he was even close. The passion there was so great Tenten was too caught up to even remember about anything else. They even ignored the fact that their axe destroyed the bed, as it fell down to another level, legs in floor. My love, Naruto, please me harder. She yelled, and Naruto lifted her up, pushing her on a wall with him still inside. He then pumps in her the best he can, even having to invoke some chakra into his bottom half to pick up the pace, and putting cracks in the wall. It wasn't long before her got tighter, squeezing his to almost painful levels. Screaming out his name, she came on his and pubic hair, the juices pouring into the floor. The added tightness was too much again, and Naruto was forced to pull out. But she had other plans, and wrapped her legs around the boy to prevent escape. I want you to come inside me. No matter what the cost, I want your love to be inside me. She screamed, and it was inevitable. Naruto came full force into Tenten's body, yelling his second lover's name, and falling back on the bed. That was amazing. Can we do this again? Tenten asked, as Tsunami awoke. Naruto smiled. Of course, but now that I think about it, I might have to get a bit serious now, since you girls probably are pregnant. If you are, I'll do my best to protect each of you and them. He states, causing them to blush again. Tsunami crawled onto him, grabbing firm hold of his and placing it inside her again. Ooh, how about round 2? She asked, riding the boy like a cowboy does a horse, or bull. She grips onto him tight, and starts rising up and down his shaft, moaning louder than a coyote at night. Oh, ah, she yelled, coming a second time for the day. She let go of Naruto before he could come again. Tenten picked Tsunami off of him, and got on her arms and legs, facing away from him. Still not tired, he goes over Tenten's back, inserting inside her vagina again. He kept moving in a fast pace, as cum continued to squirt out the side of her onto his. Ooh, oh, Naruto, she screamed with his pushes. Soon she got a bit too tight around him, and he was gonna cum. Knowing that they would keep him like that, he kept pumping, releasing cum inside her vagina once again. Naruto, Tenten, and Tsunami have had a wonderful 2 weeks together. After proclaiming their love for him, Tenten and Tsunami no later became his lovers. They did everything from cooking, shopping, chores, bathing while Inari was away, and many other things together. Then came the time to leave. Goodbye Naruto ni-chan, hope to see you again. Inari yelled, waving at him from afar. Tsunami was a bit in tears, sad that he had to leave her again. She would miss him so dearly, and the only thing on her mind then was running inside the house, making vomiting sounds. Inari wasted no time in running inside to see her. Out on the road Naruto was having similar problems. Tenten kept stopping their progress, hacking up chunks of already digesting food everywhere. It was like she was making room in her belly for something special. Naruto was a bit concerned, since he knew nothing about the female anatomy. By the time they finally made it to Konoha, he was carrying Tenten in his arms. Making his way through the gate he noticed people were looking straight at him. He didn't care. It would always be the usual, "I want the demon dead," gazes. This time there was a twist. They were whispering hateful things about him doing some things to Tenten. It couldn't be helped. The demon disgrace of Konoha was carrying an unconscious girl in her arms. They either thought she was just sleeping, or he'd her. Ignoring the death stares, he carried on towards the Hokage's tower. Entering inside he saw Shizune sleeping on the counter. He didn't think much of it, she does need sleep anyway. As she entered Tsunade's office to report their return, she was quick to notice him carrying Tenten in his arms. Thinking they might have run into a little trouble on their vacation, she gets up and checks her. What happened to her? Did Akatsuki attack you too? Naruto shook his head, and laid Tenten down in a chair. Then what happened? We were on our way back to Konoha when she started throwing up. I don't know why she was, but eventually she passed out, and I was forced to heave her this way. Naruto explained carefully, leaving out the part where they would occasionally for obvious reasons. Tsunade wasn't convinced that this was all that was, so to get a better understanding of what happened she held her hands over Tenten's stomach, forcing chakra into her palms. She gasped, signaling that she might have some bearing on what happened to her. Naruto, she asked in a low, almost growling voice, turning back to face him while towering over him. He didn't like this look. It was the one she always gave him whenever she would hurt him. Looking over any and all possible escape routes in his mind, he nervously smiled. You wouldn't happen to know why she is pregnant, right? Naruto flinched. He knew that this might have happened during their time of sweet loving, but he never guessed that Tsunade would have figured it out just by holding chakra-induced hands over her belly. Maybe that's what medic ninjas can do as well. He did, however, keep a straight face as to not give away his posture. Really? I can't believe she got pregnant. Why didn't she tell me? You didn't know. Then why don't we ask her when she wakes up? Tsunade was certain he had something to do with this, and was damned if she would let him get off with a serious thing like this with just one punch. That was when Tenten woke up. Where am I? Naru-koi, are we back yet? She asked drowsingly, not fully adjusted to vision as she couldn't tell who was there right now. From hearing the words, koi, be added to his name meant that he did have something to do with it, leaving Tsunade to gut punch Naruto, forcing him to cough up blood and crumple onto the floor unconscious. When Tenten finally could see, she saw her idol standing before her, with a less than happy face planted above that platinum babe's endowments. Thinking back to what she said, and looking at Naruto on the floor, she was blushing in embarrassment. Tenten, I'm gonna go for broke. Did he get you pregnant? She asked nicely. Her words sounded nice, but you could still feel the anger on her face. Tenten, blushing madly, was forced in a corner. She could now tell that Naruto was on the floor because of her and doesn't want any more harm to befall her darling lover, and on the other hand she could never lie to the only woman in her life that inspired her to become stronger than any male ninja. Yes, I love that man over there. And yes, we did have, but he didn't force me into it. I wanted it, and he gave it to us. I knew the risk, and I still did it. I didn't care about the consequences, just showing him the love he desired. By the time she finished her speech, Tsunade had finally calmed down. The words spoken from her voice soothed her rage towards the blonde. Sighing, she healed Naruto's injuries, and he woke up instantly. What happened? I hit you, it's no big deal. Tsunade said in a fast-toned pace. Now carefully explain to me how you're gonna deal with this, and what she meant by, you giving it to us, okay? Tenten cringed. She hadn't realized she said that. In fact, it never crossed her mind, Tsunami getting knocked up too. She would have to ask her when they return. In the meanwhile, Naruto told the Hokage everything he would do, ranging from being by her side until the end and getting strong enough to protect her from anything, to explaining the fact that he may have knocked up another woman he remembers from his first real mission, and that he will marry the both of them to prove his loyalty and love. After being convinced that he is serious, the Hokage goes back to her desk, pressing her fingers all up on her temples in frustration. You know you've just forced one of my best ninjas off the field for up to 9 months. Not only will you have to promise me you'll be by their side no matter what, but this Tsunami person has to be reinstated as a Konoha civilian. Tsunade began, causing the both of them to listen carefully. But not only that, Naruto is only a genin who still doesn't have the strategic knowledge for becoming even Chunin. And Tenten, neither you nor him have family to support you. How will you fare? At the end both of them were real nervous now. Tenten had completely forgotten about Naruto's ninja position. She herself wasn't good enough to become Jonin and was still weaker than Sakura, only because she got training from the old lady and the Chinese-dressed girl was stuck with only knowledge of weaponry. She had no other skills in genjutsu, taijutsu, and she only knew weapon-like ninjutsu. All her time was spent on kenjutsu. Naruto specialized in ninjutsu and had weak taijutsu. He could only dispel genjutsu and there was no way he could fight with a sword. It doesn't matter. I'll protect her and Tsunami-chan no matter what. Right now, I have to gather enough cash for a proper household, or move in with her. He said, thinking that there's no way in hell a baby would survive in his neighborhood. Fine. If that's all then you're dismissed. But I would like for her to stay. Seeing that he could prepare himself, he heads out, set on training harder than he ever could. As he left, Tenten sat down in a chair. When I think about it, you would have done a lot more than slugged his stomach. Ninjas having children at a young age is normal. They go into battle day after day, risking their lives for others, and in the end they might either lose a personal baby maker or their own lives. Tsunade took out a bottle of sake and gave a swig. Anyway, it's only natural that they spread their legacy before it's too late. After all, we all have to die sometimes. I, myself, had wished I could have kids. But that's impossible now. I'm too old. I'm sorry, Tenten said, bowing her head in compassion for her sake. Don't be. I've had enough of that from a lot of guys and freaks. She said, drinking some more booze. But try to take it easy, and stay as close to Naruto as possible for protection. From both Akatsuki and anyone else besides you two that love him. Tenten began to think about anyone who might love her Koichi, and only Hinata showed up. Sakura was a possibility, but she still liked that traitor, right? Back with our hero, he continued his way throughout town heading for his humble abode. By the time he got there, he began storing the only useful things in his scroll, which wasn't a lot considering where he lived. That night Tenten was out with the girls having a wonderful time. Her, Sakura, Ino, Hinata, Kurenai, and Shizune were at the Ichiraku ramen bar, eating noodles and drinking sake. Ayame was free that night, so she joined in, only having to do her job to serve ramen. So, how was your trip with Naruto, Tenten? Did he piss you off with his stupid, "I'm gonna be Hokage," rants? Sakura asked, slurping up miso beef. Hinata flinched at the mention of his name, a blush coming onto her face. Oh, he's not that bad, Sakura. You should give Naruto a chance. Tenten replied, devouring her bowl in the same manner like Naruto. Well, it seems he gave you a bigger impression than I thought. You sound like you two are dating now. Ino spoke, taking a slurp of veggie noodles. Tenten just stayed silent, and continued eating. The others began to notice her sudden Naruto-like appetite, and Kurenai got suspicious. Well, I think I should tell you this. I'm gonna have a baby. Me and Asuma tied the knot. The Jonin spoke, her eyes still not leaving Tenten. In fact, she flinched a bit at the word, baby. The other girls were all smiling and squealing a bit. Well, Hinata already knew, but what are you gonna do? Well, let's have a toast to Kurenai and her new life. The kunoichi each took a glass of alcohol, and tipped it against each other at the same time. It gave off a wonderful, ting, sound. Just as Kurenai was about to drink it, Sakura took the glass away from her. No, no. If you were to drink sake, then you might mess up the baby's growth system. It's even worse than giving a baby beer years after they were brought up. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. She stopped when she saw Tenten spitting her drink onto the floor. Hinata, Ino, and Sakura all saw this, and Shizune gasped in great shock. Tenten's never given up drinking sake before. After having to keep it away from Lee all those times, it only made sense to drink it herself so he wouldn't get a drop. And now, here she was, giving up on the rice liquor like it was rotten to her health, or so. That's when it hit her. Oh my god. Tenten, you're pregnant, she screamed, as all the women gasped and stared at her. Ino then moved her chair towards her, hoping to get an insight. Congratulations, Tenten, you're gonna become a mother. So who's the father? Tenten was drawn in a corner. Her cover was blown, her status was exposed to the world, and if she stayed quiet for too long, they'll think it was someone else. Seeing as she had no choice, she decided to tell Naruto. The minute his name left her lips, Hinata bursted into tears, running away for elsewhere. Ino went pale, passing out on the floor. Sakura began to look completely evil, thinking that Naruto forced her into something she didn't want like most guys. Shizune was happy that Naruto found love, and Kurenai was at a loss of words. Of course she knew Naruto was never one to understand love, and even thought he would end up with Hinata, like a bunch of other people on fanfiction, but like always, the number one unpredictable ninja somehow surprises us all. Sakura gripped Tenten's shirt collar tight. Tell me, did he rape you? Tenten smashed her forehead into Sakura's, in response to her foolish question. How dare you say something like that? Naru Koishi is the sweetest, most generous man I've ever met. His actions swooned me away, and his dedication to his nakama is more than you ever knew before that traitor left. She yelled back, forcing the others to back away a bit. I love him so much I let myself get pregnant. After all, we kunoichi know a technique that prevents pregnancy. I just wanted him to know he doesn't have to live alone the rest of his life. And with that, she stormed off, heading onward to find Naruto. Back in Wave. Doctor, is that true? Tsunami asked while sitting in a doctor's office. Her son was sitting beside him, and he was smiling a bit. Yes, you'll be having a child. The old doc spoke, and Inari jumped out of his seat, happy that he'll have a little brother, or sister to teach ninjutsu skills when they're older. Yada, yada. Ka-san, you don't seem happy. Is something wrong? The boy asked, noticing a grave look on her face. And that's how babies are born. Tsunami finished. For the last half hour she and Tazuna have been explaining to Inari how babies are born and made. In the end he had a shock on his face that was so priceless you couldn't even sell it for less than Ikyoku Ryu on eBay. But that left the old man, who had just came in after hearing his daughter was having a baby, one question. Okay, and who would be the father, my dear daughter? The old man asked. Tsunami blushed, not wanting to say who. But in the end she had no choice, for she wishes to let him know and marry him as well. I'll tell you, but first please don't hurt him, she said, hoping to calm her father down. Quote. It was Naruto. Both Tazuna and Inari were both star-struck and gaping mouths. It's not every day you find out that your mother is having another kid, and that the father is your idolized brother. Tazuna was pissed beyond reason after finding out that the same kid that helped the village get rid of Getu is also the same Yaro that was gonna make his next grandchild a Yaro. But he hasn't returned to Wave since. He and his girlfriend Tenten came by 5 days ago to spend a week's vacation here. We confided our love for him and, you probably know the rest. Tsunami said, blushing from just remembering her fun with Tenten and Naruto-kun. Tazuna was completely angry, and Inari had a smile. I've always wanted a father. Arigato, Kami-sama. He prayed silently in his mind. Well, I'm gonna have a little talk with Naruto when we move to Konoha. Tazuna said, holding a sledgehammer in one hand, and grabbing Inari with the other. With both in hand he left, as Tsunami got up and followed them. They forgot to pay the bill. The doc said, then thought about this Naruto, and how much health insurance he'll need. 5 days later. 5 days have really been kind to Naruto. He has been training himself beyond his limits and gotten major results, the drive to this all for protecting Tenten from any danger that might come for her. He had moved out of his apartment to buy a new house with all the money he's been saving. Added with the Ryu Tenten's been holding, and the cash she's gained from selling her home, they got themselves a place to live together. Naruto was currently heading to his old apartment, trying to make sure he didn't leave behind a single thing he would need. But by the time he got there, he realized that he didn't have anything to take with him in the first place. Am I here? I don't even like this neighborhood. Oh well, he said to himself, stepping on the top of his old place. But as he turned around he saw a person cloaked in a green wrap. This person held out their hand, and rushed forward, jabbing said hand into his stomach, and knocking Naruto out. Tenten was at the gate right now, holding a bag of food for tonight. I hope I save enough for Koichi later. He'll need the energy, for later. She giggled perversely, not regretting a single thing after becoming pregnant. But just as she was deep in thought, 3 figures came through the gate. Looking closer she saw it was Tsunami, Inari, and some old geezer. Each of them were carrying baggage, well except Tsunami who was holding none. Just as Tenten was about to walk up, Tsunami held her hand up in coherence to seeing her. Oh heyo, Tenten-chan, how are things? She yelled, running up to the kunoichi and hugging her. Tazuna was gaping. Who is she? That's Tenten. She's the girlfriend that came with Naruto in Wave that time. Inari explained. Tenten looked at the little one, and smiled. How are you, Tenten-san? I'm okay. And who is he? She asked, looking over Tsunami's shoulder and at Tazuna. Tsunami let go of her and brought her father's hand to hers. Tenten, my father Tazuna. Father, the girlfriend of my baby's father. She said, as Tazuna shook Tenten's hand. But Tenten was for some reason smiling and happy. You're pregnant too. That's great, the bushy ninja said, freaking Tsunami out. Oh my god, we're both having his baby. She squealed, knowing that they both get to marry him and such. Tazuna sighed, pulling a sledgehammer out. Where is the Gaki? I would like to have a word with him. He said, pounding the steel thing in the palm of his hand. I would also like to know how did an ugly shut of a kid like him score with 2 girls at once. Maybe he can give me some pointers, if he can talk. Tenten and Tsunami gut punched him each at the same time, sending him to the ground at once. So, where is Ni-san? I mean, Tu-san. I won't hurt him, Inari asked, hoping to see his new father. Tsunami smiled at her little one, and Tenten sighed. I have no clue. He was supposed to meet me here after checking back at his old apartment for anything. But he hasn't come yet. Tenten was a bit worried. After telling of their relationship, Hinata and Ino have been acting weird. She was on better terms with Ino than the others, but this was new. But Hinata seems to make her worried more. It was like those two had loved him too, and she had a feeling someone might try to rape him. Ino no, because they would never ruin their friendship. But, come on, I have to find him, she said, as the three followed her, Tazuna in a limping motion than the others. Naruto. Naruto opened his eyes, and looked around to see, but only saw darkness. There was also a chill down his body, but then he felt something grab onto his, as if he wasn't even wearing pants. It stroked his jaw slowly, and he felt real good. Who is that? He asked, trying to pry himself free, but sooner got to know that his hands were tied behind him. He was, until whoever could look away, at their mercy. Oh, just relax. You'll soon have a second woman to love you, a voice said, as the lady removed his blindfold, and he got a look at his kidnapper. It was the Hyuga heiress Hinata, wearing her birthday suit. Her milky white skin, large S, and tender vaginal area that had the tiny patch of violet-blue hair, all revealed to him. He would have had a really big red blush on his face, but it was just a small one, as he's already seen two even more beautiful women. Compared to Tsunami and Tenten, Hinata's figure seemed scarred from combat, it seems. Naruto looked at the scenery, and saw that he was still in the old apartment. Hinata, what the H? He couldn't finish because Hinata moved her head closer to his face, and gave him one of the sweetest kisses she can muster. After she was done, the Hyuga stroked his again, and pulled out a weird-looking pump. Naruto-kun, I've loved you for so long, and now after Tenten spoke of you impregnating her, I freaked. But no matter. I'll marry you this way as well. Just one huge adjustment, she said, then placed his inside the pump, and began to squeeze the contraption attached to it. You have a nice size, but I want you bigger. And with that, she pumps even more, as Naruto squirms about. He feels as if his blood was being recirculated in his little guy, increasing the flow and stretching it beyond its limit. His worries of exploding were put to rest when Hinata stopped pumping and took the pump out. There we go, a 9-inch pleasure stick. All for me. She lifts herself up above his, and gets ready to him senselessly. But just as she was about to break her barrier, there was a knock on the door. She turned around to the door, and went to get her clothes on. It only took a minute to do, and once she was done she gagged Naruto with his socks, and went to answer the door, opening it to see. Tenten-san, how are you? Hinata said, seeing her, Tsunami, Tazuna and Inari all together. Naruto heard Hinata through the closed doors, having Kyuubi enhance his hearing a bit with demon chakra. From what he could tell, with help from his enhanced smelling, Tsunami and Inari were with her. But that wasn't right, they wouldn't just come here for a visit. That's when it hit him, Tsunami really must be pregnant, and they're here for his hand and hers in marriage. I've got to get out of here and tell them. He mumbled through the gag, as the hand on top of the other applied pressure to it. He then snapped the bones out of place, allowing his back hand to come out of the ropes easily. He then used his chakra to snap it back in place, and untie his other hand out. He then went to his legs and untied them, then removed the gag and rose up. So, you don't know where he is? Asked Tsunami, now just as worried as Tenten is. Tazuna and Inari were both stuck listening to the conversation being held, and wondered why was a Hyuga inside his old apartment. But that's when they heard something. Tenten, Tsunami. A voice inside the apartment screamed. Hinata paled as she turned around. All 5 of them were shocked to see Naruto standing there, with no clothes on, might I add. Both girls he screwed got pissed immediately. Naruto, why are you? And why did Hinata lie about you being here? Tenten and Tsunami yelled at the same time, causing Hinata to cring. Tazuna only blocked his vision while Inari just stared cluelessly. Hold on a sec. Hinata here kidnapped me and tied me up. She's plain psycho. He yelled back, making Hinata look to both sides. If those two knew the truth, she would be in pain. Oh, Naruto-kun. I would never do such a thing. After all, I love you very much. You'd have to be a. Hold on. The Hinata I knew would never admit that she loves Naruto. She said, as Naruto shook his head. Tsunami just stared at his now even bigger, and was trying her best not to think nasty thoughts and grab hold and ride. Stay focus. Must not look at it. Oh fine. I did tie him here. But I had a real reason for doing it. I just couldn't let Naruto-kun be unhappy with some he picked up off the streets. She said with an intense vulgar voice that spreaded venom towards Tenten mostly. I will not have you cheat your way to my man, and leave me with nothing. I will you if you even. Smack. Hinata crimped onto the floor, blood dripping from the corner of her mouth. As she plopped to the ground, she looked up to see Naruto cracking his knuckles. Naruto. Don't call me that. I will never love you. I thought you were one of my nakama, but instead you were just some crazed vixen that looks up to me. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have thought that kidnapping me was such a good idea. You would have instead told me before this happened. He said cleanly. Hinata cried to herself, before passing out from the blow. Naruto. I understand Hinata going so far, but was all that necessary? Tenten asked, now noticing the fact that his was even bigger than before. After she did, she blushed thinking of all the things they could do. I don't care. But what I do care about, is why Tsunami, Tazuna and Inari are here. If you guys are here for me, then Tsunami is obviously pregnant with my child, am I right? After his words, Tazuna nodded, and slammed a sledgehammer on his skull. Naruto of course dodged, knowing how much it would hurt, but couldn't get out of the way of Inari's punches to the stomach. This is when he cringes to the ground. Damn it. Look, I'm sorry, but she wanted to do it. I love her, and Tenten. And I will never betray them no matter what. He said, as Tazuna and Inari sighed. Of course we know you will. But you have to know that it's a father's duty to beat up the man who knocked their daughter up. Besides, you three will have to wed. He said, holding his hammer up above his head. Clang. 3 days later. I now pronounce you, man, wife, and wife. You may kiss one another. Tsunade said, looking before the 3 people before her. Naruto was wearing a tux, and for some reason it was orange. Tsunami was wearing a wave-patterned yukata, and Tenten had on a traditional yukata she got from Tsunade. As Naruto kissed Tsunami, Kakashi, Guy and a few members of the Rookie Nine smiled in coherence to their marriage. As he kissed Tsunami, Tazuna and Inari, as well as Sakura, smiled. The only one not in Tsunade's office while the marriage took place, that actually had some impact on the Naruto universe, was Hinata. It's to be expected. She's totally given up on Naruto. After the wedding, the threesome went to their new apartment for a party. There were drinks and small food that couldn't fill a rat's stomach, as well as music and dancing. Naruto was sitting with the guys, while 2 Cage Bunshin were dancing with the girls. So, how did you get to be with Tenten-san? Did you take her out somewhere? Neji asked, wearing his own dress-up suit. With him and Naruto were Kiba, Lee, Shino, can you believe it, Shikamaru, Iruka, and Choji. Well, we just spent a lot of time together during that mission in Suna and afterwards. She confessed during the vacation with Tsunami, and we've been together ever since. Naruto explained, drinking a cup of sake. Everyone kept alcohol away from Lee, not leaving a single drop come near him. Oh really? Back before our academy days you weren't very attractive. All the girls beat you up, remember? Kiba said, remembering the good old days. Well, I guess I filled out nicely. After all, I'm no pervert. Maybe that's why you can't get a date in your life. After his clever crack, Kiba was sent fuming through the ears. And they all laughed. With Tsunami she was done dancing with the clone, and now was talking with Kakashi, Kurenai, Anko, and Shizune. All of which were real into the fact that an older lady likes a kid. And she really could do better. So, what attracted you to Naruto anyway? After all, he isn't the brightest or handsome guy you can find at a bar. Kakashi asked, a bit curious and jealous. Actually, Naruto is quite why. He's more desirable to look at than you, Cyclops. Anko said, licking her lips at the thought of having wild with Mr. Lucky. Kurenai only sighed at her horny friend. Tsunami chuckled under her glass of wine. You might be onto something, Anko-san. He has a more Y body than my last husband, and his thing is a lot larger. She gossiped, causing Anko to chuckle under her breath, and squint her legs together. How large are we talking? Asked Anko and Ino at the same time. Ino was talking to Tenten, being with Sakura and Ayame. And at the same time, Tsunami and Tenten said two simple words. 9 inches. That was enough to make Ino spit up her drink all over the floor, and Anko to wet her pants with cum. Looking at him over from afar, Ino began to think how her lives would be different if she had said something to him first. Tenten, can I tell you something, alone? The blonde said to her, motioning Sakura and Ayame to leave them alone. As the two left, Ino turned to face her. Okay, what is it you wanted, Ino? Tenten asked, thinking this would be something about Naruto. After the wonderful party, everyone left for their respective places. Naruto, Tsunami, and Tenten all were on their way towards their new home, ready to proceed to the main event of the night. Once there, Tenten had something to say, something concerning Ino and Naruto. She wants what? Tsunami yelled at Tenten. The weapons master was sighing deeply, completely upset for what's to come. Naruto just went through the house to activate the sound barrier seals. While away, he was closely listening to the conversation. Ino wants to have a one-night stand with Naruto. She explained, looking at another place away from Tsunami's eyes. She pulled her closer to glare evilly. Tell me you said no. Was all that came out of the mother's mouth. Tenten looked deep within her eyes, and shook her head up and down. Is that a no? I said she could. That did it. Tsunami lifted Tenten up and shook her violently. What the hell? You want to lose the man we love enough to share with each other to some skank who came too damn late? What kinda ninja are you? The blue-haired mother screamed at the top of her lungs. Tenten gave an equally mean look. Don't blame me, it couldn't be helped. I didn't want her stealing Naruto-kun the way Hinata did. Besides, he won't be getting any from us for 8 months and I want him to be happy. She yelled back, lighting up Tsunami's eyes. She stared at her a bit to think over her words, then realized she was right. Letting her down, she gritted her teeth violently. Fine. But do not say anything if she gets pregnant. And don't come crying to me if he has to marry her too. She said, running upstairs to find her husband. Tenten ran up to follow, but stopped when she heard the doorbell ring. She headed for the door and opened it, only to find Ino there in her purple gown from this evening. I wasn't expecting you so soon. Tenten said, as Ino came through the doorway and into the house. She then closed the door, looking at her blonde friend rather profoundly. Does he agree? Can I share him the feelings I've been harboring? Ino pleaded, squeezing her thighs together and sounding rather desperate. No, I didn't tell him yet. Tenten replied, rubbing her temples with her left hand. Ino looked down to the ground almost in defeat. Then sat on the couch near them. The blonde began to twiddle her fingers together, and Tenten was getting a little worried. But I can still ask him. Wait here. I agree to it, a voice said. The two looked up to see the man they adore coming down the stairs still dressed in his tuxedo, with Tsunami coming down alongside him. Did you say yes? She could make out. Yup. Heard Tenten and Tsunami talk about it downstairs. Afterwards I spoke to Tsunami about it and decided to go with it. He said with a childish grin on his face, as he sat on the couch in between the two girls. Ino smiled warmly and hugged him tight. But Naruto pushed her aside. But I'm gonna set a few rules. Oh, okay, she said, not caring what the consequences were or will be in the end. Once we have, I don't ever want you coming back for more. If you get pregnant, it could mean more trouble for me with Ba-chan and others. Afterwards, you will promise to find a man, and never mention our experience together to anyone outside this house, just purge it completely from your mind. If anyone finds out, or if Tenten and Tsunami are put in danger, all you. He said clearly and emotionless. Ino crimpled at that last line, and his wives just blinked before realizing he was serious. Okay, I promise. She agreed, puckering her lips up for a kiss. Naruto crossed his eyes, and planted his set onto hers. The kiss felt so good to Ino, instantly melting her in it. She raised her hands to his cheek and thrust it in, increasing the passion felt between the two ninjas. It's so wonderful. I want him so badly. She thinks as she motions herself onto his body, wrapping her legs and arms around him. It got even better when she implanted her tongue inside his mouth, tasting his insides and such. Reflecting her actions, he placed his tongue inside hers and explored her innards. Wasn't bad either. He must have hit a sweet spot too, because she cummed all over his pants through her dress. Once they removed themselves, they looked at one another with breathless looks. That was amazing. I'm really gonna miss kissing you. She admits, giving another kiss. This time she's on his lower lip, causing Naruto to moan a little. Tenten and Tsunami were both trying to block the scene from their faces, and not get jealous. Damn, you're a good kisser, he said, as Ino finally rose off of him. Both his wives boiled in rage. Let's do it here. I wouldn't want to violate your bed, she requested, digging her hands down his pants. Naruto nodded and began to take his clothes off. She smoothly took her dress off, letting it slide to the floor to reveal her purple silky bra and purple lace thong. Naruto was just in his boxers now, and noticed his wives. Hold up. Tenten, Tsunami, you two head up and warm up a little with these. He holds his hands in a cross seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. And poof. 4 clones appeared out of smoke and came before the two, all wearing boxers until they got rid of them. 2 of the clones lifted Tenten and Tsunami and carried them upstairs. 4, the dirtiness oi, and the rest followed. The real Naruto removed his boxers, revealing to Ino his 9-inch, and letting her drool all over it. Ino begins to rub his up and down, causing him to moan from her actions. His hands also begin to creep around her body, heading for her bra and underwear. He then unsnaps the bra and pulls down the underwear, getting a full view of her bra size and a little yellow bush over her soaked. Naruto then proceeds to licking and massaging her s, earning moans from the blonde babe on top of him. Ino gasped loudly from the amount of pleasure she was receiving, so much so she was reaching an orgasm so soon. No, not yet. Just a little more, she pleads in her mind, but was betrayed as she cummed over his lap again. Ino breathed heavily over his face, and her could feel her moisture all over his body and pubic hair. Naruto was about to give her what she's been waiting for, and gained a look of approval. Go ahead and rape me like yesterday's whore. You know, that can the mood. I would never rape anyone, especially pretty girls. He says, lifting her over his manhood. She looked down at him and nodded, sitting down on his pleasure stick. She let loose a strong cry, one that would have echoed through to outside if not for the seals. Itty-tie, it hurts, she cries, trying her best not to wimp out as blood came streaming down her cunt. Naruto lifted his head up and kissed her lips to silence her words, if only for a little while, and in and out slowly and softly. It's okay. It's okay. It'll only hurt for a while, don't worry. He comforts her a bit, as he tries to get her as used to this as he can. Soon she got over the pain, as her showed a different expression, one that told you she was loving it. She wrapped her arms and legs around him and bounced up and down his shaft fierce and fast, howling lustfully like a coyote in heat. Naruto started to match her movements to triple the feeling. Oh, Naruto, Naruto, she yelled, getting her next orgasm of the night. She completely soaked his in cum, as she tired out for a while. She was now beginning to understand why Tenten let herself get pregnant. Ino then rose off her erection and turned facing away from him. She then sat on his thing again, shoving it inside her this time. Her cries become even louder than before when her was being ed. Damn, her is a bit too tight, he thought. Naruto decided she had enough and decided to move her himself. He gripped her shoulders and bounced her up and down his in a hasty motion. He was loving it, as was she. The two of them yelled out in pleasure while he ed themselves into bliss. It would only be a matter of time before she cummed again, and he would follow as well. He slid his right hand index and middle finger inside her and finger ed her, hoping to get her and to clamp down on him before he cummed. She didn't mind, loving the fact that both her holes were being violated by Naruto time and time. Oh yes, yes, I'm coming, she yells, going even faster on his before the finale. Her walls inside were closing in on him and brought him so close to the climax. Good, I'm about to too. They both came on each other, her coming juice down his, and juice squirts down onto his fingers and lap, while his cum jets inside her tight little butt. Ino's a squirter, he thought while extremely tired from working. The two ninjas began to grasp for air once they were finished. Ino, having to have exploded so many times, stiffened and can't move her legs anymore. All she could do was turn around and kiss his lips, before saying, "I love you," and passing out into the cold abyss of slumberland. Well, that was fun. I quite enjoyed that. I hope Tsunami and Tenten aren't scorned. Naruto slowly slid out of Ino and placed her on the couch. Just as he wiped cum off of her, he kissed her forehead and covered her body with a dress. He sneaks upstairs in order to surprise his lovely wives and get a look at their actions. As he peeks into his room, he is greeted to a rather wise sight. Tenten was giving a blow job to one of his clones while the other rubs her with his. Tsunami was ing one and ing off another. Sugoi, I never knew my wives were so perverted, Naruto said, walking into the room already hard. Both women blushed when they saw him, not even caring that he dispersed the clones. But I'm a bit curious that they weren't taking you deep. Koibito, it's not perverted if it's with someone you love, Tenten said, pulling him onto the bed. Tsunami slid under him. Besides, we won't give a clone of you the amount of pleasure you alone deserve. We only want you to us, not a fake, Tsunami announced, kissing him hard on the lips. But I guess you can use it on Ino since you like her as well. That will be the only time me and her will do it. I'd rather not get any for a while than gain it from someone else. Because I love you both, he replied, kissing her back and placing himself by her entrance. We love you too, husband, they said in unison. Naruto sighed, then plunged into Tsunami. She made a lustful cry, and Tenten slid her in front of their faces. No more talking. Let's show our love. And with that, they commence with the fun. Naruto pumps in and out of Tsunami's tight little at a regular pace, not too fast and not too slow. The woman began to growl out in pleasure, and wrapped her arms and legs around him. She pushed her waist up and down along with his, going in sync with his movements. While part of her body worked, her head went to Tenten's, and rubbed her tongue along the, getting a lustful moan out of the girl's mouth. Oh yes, me, my love, my precious husband, Tsunami moaned, while pumping her tongue and finger inside Tenten's body. Naruto pushed inside even harder than before, causing lustful moans to escape her lips. Tenten grabbed Tsunami's head with her legs, pushing her deeper into her. Oh God, Tsunami, you're amazing at this. Tenten cried in extreme pleasure, adding her own fingers in her. Naruto began to go faster, reaching the boiling point. Soon their walls began to clamp down on his and her tongue and fingers, and they had to hurry and get the most out of this. Yes, I'm coming, all three of them thought, and released a massive cry to the ceiling. Tenten's vagina let loose a stream of honey juice, letting it flow down onto Tsunami's face and tongue. The chain reaction made Tsunami cum all over her beloved husbands, soaking it considerably as he squirted cum inside her womb again. The effect left all of them panting, as Naruto slowly slid out of Tsunami and Tsunami let go of Tenten's love hole. Tenten rose to her knees, and pushed him on the bed facing up. She then placed herself over his giant pleasure rod, seeking entrance. "Go ahead, I'm all yours for the ing," he said in that low husky voice she got so horny off of. Not wasting a minute, she plops herself onto his john, releasing her cries of UAL love. She bounces up and down his lap and, ing herself into blissful wonderland. Naruto pumped his body up and down while guiding her body down with his hands. Just when it was getting good, Tsunami made it even better, and planted herself over his face. "Eat me. Eat my the way you eat ramen," she spoke seductively. Naruto replied by doing just that, licking her wet like a dog licks his bowl of water. He starts to as well, and Tsunami cringes her face and breaths heavily, releasing moans of pleasure unlike any she's given before. Both girls were having the time of their lives, yet he was about to make it better. He creeps his left hand to Tsunami's tiny little hole, and pokes his index and middle finger inside her butt, pumping hard inside. She screams in pleasure while his actions go. He repeats this action with Tenten, slowly sliding his finger to her, giving it a tight squeeze first. She coos softly at his move, then screams when his fingers start to her like his is doing. "Oh, Naruto. Me harder, I'm gonna come," she cried, starting to reach her limit again. She pumps up and down his faster now, as he could start to feel her tighten around his meat stick and fingers. "Husband, I'm about to come. Open wide," she says, as her vagina constricts around his tongue and fingers as well. He was about to release his semen as well, and ed them faster. They had one huge orgasm. Tenten grabbed him and cried out his name while coming through both holes, drenching his fingers and with her juices. Naruto shot cum inside her body, yelling her name as well. Tsunami squirts cum all over his face and inside his mouth. Both girls laid down in tiredness, lying on top of their husband now. "I have enough energy to please you one last time tonight," Tsunami said, rising up and moving towards his. "Oh really? What did you have in mind?" he asked, still wondering how his is still standing strong. Tenten crawled over to her husband's other wife, as Tsunami whispered in her ears. Tenten smiled, then the both of them laid on their backs, placing their vaginas on the sides of his. He moaned from the feel of their wetness. "This is new," he thought. Then he began to moan even more, as both girls moved their pussies up and down his, causing all three of them to moan out of pleasure. Each girl began to fondle her s as well, screaming in joy and lust as they each easily reached the boiling point once again. "Tsunami. Tenten," he yelled, squirting his cum into the air and onto their stomachs and such. The girls screamed his name out, letting cum drip down his body. Both girls could barely drag themselves to Naruto, wrapping their arms around him. Naruto placed an arm around Tenten and Tsunami as well, bringing them close to his body. "I hope we can please each other like this forever. Husband, we love you. We'll forever love you," the two of them said in unison, kissing his on the lips at the same time. Tenten ed on the top right of his mouth while her tongue went in his throat as Tsunami ed the bottom left, with her tongue in his throat too. The two of them stopped so soon though, falling into a fast dreamscape, and Naruto followed. Today, their lives begin. The next morning, Naruto woke up the next morning, to the feel of something warm and moist around his. He looked down to see Tenten giving him a blowjob, ing him off like a piece of candy. She was like last night. "Oh good morning, my dear husband. Ino left last night," she said, licking the tip nicely. Naruto moaned at her actions. "Oh good. I would figure you'd be hungry," he said, moving himself up. She smiled with it in her mouth. "I am hungry, and what I want for breakfast is to lap up your thick, warm cream." She bobbed her head up and down, until finally Naruto cummed in her mouth. Tenten made 10 gulps before finally letting go. "There, I'm full now. Let's go see what Tsunami's making. And with that, Naruto got to his feet and walked downstairs, as Tenten followed behind. They met up with a Tsunami making breakfast, and sat down in their seats to wait. So, how long until Inari and Tazuna come back? Not for a week. In fact, I've been thinking of having them move into another home, but still can come over here whenever. Tsunami said, placing food onto plates. She then places it onto the table, and the triple begin to eat. I agree Tazuna should move out, but Inari's a bit too young to be out on his own. He just joined the Ninja Academy 2 days ago. Naruto said, eating a combination of eggs, bacon and 2 slices of toast. Well, we can always enjoy the time we have now. Tenten said, eating her egg. Tsunami accidentally drops his fork. Did they have silverware on the floor to pick it up? Besides, we'll have to find some way to please ourselves once we become big. We can always go in the U. He stops when he feels Tsunami's mouth all over his. She begins to deepen long. That's not a bad idea, husband. Tenten said, then joins Tsunami under the table, giving a double blow job. It wasn't long before he blew a load. Meanwhile, in a tree outside, a long-haired man was snoring loudly. It didn't take long for him to fall out of the tree, crashing and causing Naruto and his wives to look out. What was that? Naruto said, peeking his head out the window. And what he saw was Ero Sennin. Don't tell me you were watching us this entire time. He yelled at him, pissed beyond belief at what his teacher did. A notebook fell out of his shirt. Naruto, not caring for his own nest, jumped out and grabbed it, looking it over and seeing that the details were similar to his time last night, even including when he ate Ino. Tsunami, Tenten, get some clothes on and bring some out for me. I want to have a talk with Tsunade about this. He said to them, as they already were upstairs changing. Jiraiya held his hands up in a pleading motion. Please, let me use you 3 in my newest work. I can get a lot of cash out of this. He begged, obviously in awe of him. Naruto crossed his arms around his chest. And why should I let you put me and my wives in your perverted novel, and not tell Oba-chan about this? He asked, as Tenten and Tsunami came running out the door, and threw Naruto some boxers and blue shorts. I'll give you 66% of the cut. He bargained, giving Naruto a bit to think about. He put his clothes on and looked at the girls. What do you think? Should I go with his request? He asked them, and they shook their heads no. Then it's settled. Ba-chan. He yelled, running towards the Hokage tower. Jiraiya paled and ran after him, but was stopped by fear intent of the 2 girls. We'll make you pay for peeping on us, you bastard. They both said, pulling out weapons, string, and bats. Hokage tower. Ba-chan. Ero Sennin was peeping on us. He yelled when he bursted into her office. Tsunade almost grew an enormous head and looked at him, mad about the old lady part. Didn't I tell you not to? She pauses when she realizes the words he said afterwards. Naruto handed her the notebook. Here is what he recorded. She took it, and began to look it over, reading over the words placed in there. And for some reason she got a nosebleed. Normally I would tell you to burn this, and then I would castrate him, but this might be good to get some cash on the side. She suggested, and Naruto went wide-eyed and jaw dropped. And this is coming from the queen of anti-pervs. She threw him the book. If she could bleed through the nose and compliment then it really must be good. He thought, thinking over what to do, and maybe if he should write some of his own, if the girls agreed. But as he thought, Tenten and Tsunami came walking in with Jiraiya being dragged along with them. Himes, I got a bright idea. Yada. No, they both said, disagreeing to Naruto's request. The blonde teenager blinked twice, once to process their decision carefully, and twice to come up with an answer. Shrugging his arms he walked towards them, stepping on top of Jiraiya. Oh well, guess we won't Ba-chan. You guys burn this, I'm gonna go train. He said, dragging the unconscious pervert with him. All 3 women could feel sweat coming down their faces from just watching the scene, Then Tsunami opened the book. She read all the pages swiftly, scanning through the words before coming to the decision to get rid of it, but found herself already aroused from just reading it. Wow, I can't believe Naruto-kun can be so wise in writing. Maybe we should record our life, she said, causing both other women to look at her in shock. Tsunami-chan, you perv. I would expect this coming from Naruto-kun's mouth, since he is a man, but for you to, she stopped to shake her head in frustration at the other woman in her husband's life, groaning angrily. Tsunami sighed out loud, then shoved the book in her face, forcing her to read over everything that happened last night. Tenten was about to sputter random hate rants, but soon found herself blushing deeply from reading over the words written in this so-called filthy notepad. Sugoi, I think we should go with your idea, Tenten said. Tsunami jumped up in the air to express her gladness for Tenten, then hugged the ninja girl. I'm still here, Tsunade stated, causing both of them to look back at her and blush in embarrassment. Gomen, Tsunade-sama, we know how much you hate perverts. Tenten spoke, as both girls bowed before her. Tsunade held up her hands. That's not necessary. I actually agree on it. After hearing those words pop out of her mouth, the married women looked up at the Hokage in shock. You could tell from the expression of their faces that they were both freaked from hearing her. I'm not one to agree on those perverted things, but in this case you'll probably need them. After all, you, Tenten, cannot go on missions for at least 9 months, and won't be able to become a great ninja like you wished to be for raising your 2 kids. Tsunami, you probably cannot get a good job while you're like that, and you already have the problem of raising Inari. Writing for extra cash may be helpful for you 3 to strive better, with Naruto being extra busy training. Both girls sighed. Tsunade was right. Tenten had practically given up her dreams to show that female ninjas can be as strong as male ninjas and become as great as the slug charmer. And with Tsunami not being a shinobi, even she'll have to get a normal job. Husband promised he would protect us and the babies, so there's no doubt he'll be recklessly pushing himself beyond his limits just to save us. Wait, hold on. Tsunami came across something. Why did you say Tenten had to raise 2 babies? The blue-haired woman wondered out loud, making the kunoichi in the room look at her. Tenten had a confused look as well, but Tsunade was staring elsewhere like she knew what she was saying. The last time I checked up on her, I never told you this, but Tenten will be having twins. At the end of her statement, Tenten and Tsunami were both gasping out, thinking how things would be like with 3 children to raise as their own. Whoa, you think he'll pass out when he hears the news? Tsunami asked smirkingly. Tenten looked at her with a grin. He'll be in a coma for weeks. She spoke back, as the 2 of them walked out the door. As they made their way through town, one thing came up on Tsunami's mind, even though she voiced it: who will write the stuff down when we play with husband at the same time? Tenten shrugged. I can always have Naruto-kun make a shadow clone to write down the stuff for us. He can get convinced to do anything for a good long. It's nothing to whoa-oh. She pauses. Tsunami notices it and looked at her. I feel so hungry, for ramen, but why? Well, those are the cravings. It's quite normal for pregnant women. In fact, I think ramen would really hit the spot now. Her words of advice put Tenten's worries to rest once again, but brought up another question. But why ramen? Tenten asked, looking up at her older counterpart. The blue-haired mother smiled. I guess it's because we're carrying our husband's children. And we both know how much he loves that radioactive soup. The girls laughed with one another as they walked towards Ichiraku's. On the way they passed a mirror store, which Tsunami stopped by to look at herself. Oi, I wish I could be younger. I'll age before you husband will, and we'll probably have less than before. He might even stop loving me, she said, rubbing her fingers through her face. Tenten shook her head. No, you're a beautiful woman, Tsunami. Naruto sees that in you. Tenten tried to reassure her, but the older woman just stood there depressed, not even looking at her reflection. Naruto-kun does not care for what we look like or what difference we have with other girls. He married us for us, not for. Tsunami still didn't look convinced. But I'm starting to get gray hair and wrinkles. In fact, a few days ago Tsunami opened her eyes, then actually looked through the mirror, noticing nothing wrong with her face at all. In fact, she looked even better than before. But how? Nani? Tenten asked, confused as to what was going on. Tenten, I lost my wrinkles, and those blackheads and my gray hair. Tsunami checked her entire face, noticing not an ounce of fat on her body either. I look 10 years younger. She was finally smiling, until a thought came across her mind. But how come no one noticed? Why do I look so youthful? Ew. Don't say youthful, Tenten announced, knowing how much she loathes hearing that. I get enough of that from my teammates, who I really haven't seen ever since my marriage. She said, as they continued towards the Ichiraku bar, Tenten finally noticing Tsunami's feature-free. But you know, we are housing the children of a Jinchuriki. Maybe the fox inside of him has something to do with it. I guess. Let's tell husband when he finishes training. She said, clutching her belly tight. At the spot of their destination they found a Yame sitting at the front looking kinda depressed. The chef turned before her in time to see who was coming. Ohio Tenten, Naruto's other wife. Ayame said once she noticed them. Tenten smiled as did Tsunami, while sitting down in chairs at once. You can call me Tsunami. And you must be Ayame, the girl who kept Naruto fed ever since he was a little child, aren't you? Tsunami asked, as the ramen girl blushed a little. I've kept that belly of his full the day he came to me and my father's stand at the age of 6. He looked so cute and innocent back then. Ayame said, reminiscing of the past, then got a mischievous little smirk. But he's not so little anymore now, is he? He's been completely tainted by you two. As she said this, the two married women only laughed. No, he ain't little. I can tell you that. Tenten announced, as Ayame joined into the laugh. And he still is as cute and pure as he'll always be. He just knows how to give a good loving. Anyway, I'll have 10 bowls of miso. Yeah, I wish for 8 bowls of beef. As they both made their orders, Ayame went into the back to cook it up, and came out minutes later with their order. After a chant of Itadakimasu, they chowed down. Training Grounds 7, 294, 295, 296, 297. Naruto counted, doing a number of push-ups with his index fingers in the middle of his old training grounds. He's been doing this all day, going past his limits to get himself strong enough to protect the now vulnerable Tenten and the non-ninja Tsunami. He finally reaches 300 and flips onto his feet, breathing hard as sweat trickles down his face. Alright, enough warm-ups. Time for, Oi, Kuzo. Hey, boy, a voice said, in a bone-chilling boom that stopped his dead in his tracks. Naruto looked around, but saw no one who could have made that noise, then thought about Kyubi. He closes his eyes and retracts into his mind. Naruto now comes before the red-eyed fox, still behind bars like normal. The setting never changes as well, as he still is in the sewers. Oi, Yoko Yaro, what do you want? You're interrupting my training, and I'm sure you would like the idea of me becoming strong. I do. In fact, in any situation I would give you advice. But now I wish to speak about your wives. It bellowed, making Naruto become wide-eyed for a second. Why? What's wrong with them? He asked, worried about his wives. Heh, they're okay. I just felt I should say so since today is the first day of the second month. Yoko said, as Naruto could feel his sweat coming down in comedic fashion. You don't realize it because you never do, but traces of my chakra always seems to mix in with yours, and goes about your entire system. The chakra in your semen is no different. It merges with it, and they become an extremely potent sperm, super sperm if you will. Each time it enters the female's egg, the chakra diffuses and becomes 2 different sets for the child beginning to develop. In a way you can understand, your spawn will be able to draw on demon chakra the way you do, without having to have a monster in their belly. Kyubi explained, hoping the blonde baka would understand. And he did. So my kids are gonna be half fox. Well, sort of. No. They will be human. Of course they will gain qualities you possess. Naruto was now calm, but curious like a cat. Like what? For starters, speed, strength, stamina, all will be something you would refer to as superhuman. And your children and wives, not to mention yourself. When he got to that last part, Naruto was on the edge of his, well, he doesn't have a seat, but you get the idea. Quote. They will possess eternal youth. Eternal youth? Naruto questioned, not really understanding the word. You mean we're immortal? Ha. If it was that simple, I wouldn't need to supply you with chakra to heal even the most insignificant wounds. No, eternal youth is when someone keeps the qualities of being young. Think of it like that old hag and her spell to keep her looking so buxom. Naruto thought back to Tsunade, and got the idea. There you see. Now you understand. While they will still die, and go through that menopause thing, sooner or later, they will keep that energy from when they were teenagers and young adults, and retain those hormones that has them so horny and keeps them wanting to ride you for very long. Gee, you make it sound so good on my part. But there's still the question as to why you're doing this for me. Naruto said, looking at the red-eyed demon, who only laughed. You've got it all wrong, Kuzo. It's all because of those seals placed upon me that is giving your new family benefits. Besides, it will take effect today, the start of their second month of pregnancy. Kyuubi stated, as Naruto could soon feel himself returning to the living world. Kyuubi left one piece of advice. I may hate you, but I can respect anyone who fights for their treasure. Outside, Naruto opened his eyes, and saw he was still back where he was before, training to get stronger. He began to contemplate what Kyuubi said before he left. I wonder what he means by treasure. Isn't that stuff gold and silver, stuff people like pirates value and love above all? He didn't get the meaning behind the words. Oh well. Back to training. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He made 100 clones appear out of thin air. Once they gathered around, he looked at the nearest tree. I want 33 of you guys to combine the wind chakra we have with the Rasengan for a new move. Those set numbers ran off to train. Alright, I want you 33 to practice the leaf exercise. Get it to levitate without cutting it. Those ninjas left. Another 30 will be learning this technique out of the scroll, Vari no Jutsu. It should allow us to spark someone with just a touch. The clones took the scroll handed to them, as one was left beside Naruto. You and me will be sparing. Naruto goes into a stance, as the other one does as well. His house. Tenten and Tsunami were just getting in, closing and locking the door so no one would be coming inside without a key. So, what should we write first? The time we did it for the first time. Tenten said. Yes, I suppose. Tsunami said, and they began writing. 3 months later, Naruto had just returned from a very long mission, and was just coming through the gates of Konoha. He hated off 2 Iwa missing ninjas, and was delivering his report to the Hokage. The time looked to be about 7 p.m., as it was already night time. I wonder what Tsunami and Tenten are doing. As he made his way through the village, he looked around and saw people were still giving him the death glares. Guess their opinion of him never changed even after his marriage. Screw them. All I need is the love of my nakama, and my beloved wives. He was finally able to make it to the Hokage's office, holding a scroll to give his full report. Hello Ba-chan. I'm here for my report. It was a complete success. Then what took so damn long in getting back? I'll have you know that both your wives came in looking for you. You were also supposed to be back when you ED them, not 2 weeks later. Tsunade yelled, just pissed by the fact that she had to cater to 2 pregnant women who would snap at any minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't you get my message some time ago? I suffered a coma, he said, remembering back to how his mission went. Tsunade nodded. Oh yeah, I remember that. You should also know that your wives found out about it too, and have been very upset over hearing it. You should have seen how much Tsunami tried to hit me, and succeeded. I've had 5 black eyes that day. She said, then looked at the door. Naruto paled a little. Oh look. Here they are. Naruto paled even more, as he slowly turned his head around and saw his 2 beautiful wives standing behind him. It seems as though they've gained a little weight, as both their stomachs were a lot larger than before. Not full size, but you get the idea. And for some reason they had become even more lovely. Tsunami now looked like a child compared to Tsunade's appearance. Her chest had also enlarged even more than you would expect, and the same features were noticeable for Tenten. But she kept her hair in buns, as Tsunami's was done up just like Tenten. But their expressions had a hint of pain for him. Oh, hey there Tsunami, Tenten. Naruto-kun. You're okay. Tenten yelled, running forward to hug him. Tsunami did as well, smashing him in their large stomachs and chests. Naruto was losing breath. Oh husband, I'm so glad you're back. Tsunami stated, as the 2 girls placed kisses onto his face and lips. Of course he still couldn't breath. He made out, as he passed out from exhaustion. The girls screamed in shock, and cradled him in their arms, walking away to their humble abode. Naruto's house. Naruto's blue eyes were slowly opening up, as he looked up to the ceiling above him. Huh, where am I? He looked to his side and saw Tenten and Tsunami. You're awake. Thank goodness. They both said, kissing his lips at the same time. Both their tongues slowly slipped down his throat, as he moaned deeply into the kiss. Naruto had kept them feeling good by rubbing their s through their clothes, causing a good amount of moaning to escape their lips. Oh, Naruto-kun, I want it. Tenten could make out, removing both her and Tsunami from the kiss. I want it now, was all that was spoken, the rest just a bunch of gasping for air. Sure. Which one wants to be first? Tenten cupped his cheeks with both hands, and gave pleasuring kisses to his mouth, as Tsunami was content with watching, removing her clothes to get ready for her turn. Oh, Naruto-kun, I was so scared to hear about you hurt. Are you sure you're okay? She said, wanting to make sure he was up to the challenge as she removed her clothes quickly. Yes, I am. Worrying should be my job. He said with a chuckle, taking off his shirt and pants. Tenten ripped his boxers to shreds, leaving nothing in the way of her prize. She wasted no time in shoving him inside her entrance, causing moans to escape both of their mouths. Oh yes, she cried, not pounding herself completely this time for the sake of their child. She really liked it hard, fast, and deep, but could only go with fast now. Nevertheless, his now larger erection was enough to send her over the edge. In fact, she only came a few seconds after he started taking over, matching her thrusts with his own. Oh, I can't wait for my turn. Tsunami said, fingering herself while she watched Tenten and her husband make excellent love. Soon it came to the point where both parties had came at the same time, and Tenten rose up off of him. She then turned around to let him go in her this time. Oh Tenten, you're as wonderfully tight, he spoke, wrapping his arms around her chest and pinching and rubbing them hard. This only served to make Tenten even hornier, as she could feel totally over the edge. Oh, Naruto, she screamed, coming through her vagina. Her had already clamped over her, but even that wasn't enough to stop him. Now it has been an hour, and he was still pounding into her, now in a doggy-style position. Tenten had been coming a long time now, soaking the floor below them amazingly. He was soon reaching the boiler point. Oh Naruto, come in me, she cried, about to make another orgasm. As you wish, he yelled, as both of them came at the same time. He had released his semen inside of her tiny little while she had squirted out of her all over his nuts in her squeezing his to its limits. Both had ended up panting out loud, as Tenten took herself from his. Tsunami then came over to get her turn, not letting Naruto recover completely from his fest with Tenten. My turn, my precious husband. Make sweet, beautiful love to me, she said, as he entered into her too. She screamed in the same frequency as Tenten a little while ago. Others, the Konoha 11, were making their way towards Naruto's new house. Among these said ninjas were Lee, Neji, Kiba, Shikamaru, Choji, Shino, Sakura, and Ino. She had obviously gotten over her addiction to the ramen kid, as proof of her holding onto Choji's arm. I sure hope Tenten likes her birthday present. She loves strawberry cheesecake, Lee said, punching the air with enthusiasm. Let's hope we can get on her good side this time, Neji said, as he remembered last time they did a surprise for her. She cursed them all out. Probably hormones making her crazy. She should be in there. Good. Let's surprise her and open the door forcefully, Kiba said, as he, Choji, and Lee ran up to the door. They saw it was unlocked, and couldn't hear anything inside. So they opened the door, yelling, "Surprise tent!" They stopped when they noticed what was going on. The moment they bursted through the door, they saw two Narutos giving anal to both Tenten and Tsunami, all but. The girls hadn't even noticed they came in, until they came along with Naruto. All three of them passed out from nosebleeds, as the girls finally saw them there. Naruto had worn out and fallen asleep, as they pulled themselves under their clothes and covered up their husband while the other Naruto poofed out of existence. Just as they were clothed, Neji, Shikamaru, Sakura, Shino, and Ino were walking up towards them. They were ready to run away too, as they were quick to notice the massive amount of intent coming off of Tsunami and Tenten. I would like to apologize for these bakas running in on you guys, Sakura and Neji said, looking at the sleeping Naruto. Ino had almost lost it when she saw him half and came in her skirt. Soon Lee, Kiba, and Choji woke up, to see Tsunami and Tenten holding weapons in their hands. Kiba, what were you three thinking bursting through our home like that? Tenten yelled. Well, I didn't know. We didn't hear anything. We put up sound seals. If you don't hear anything coming out of the house, then we're either not here or being intimate. I'm sure I told Sakura-chan and Ino-san to tell you guys that, Tsunami stated, pointing her blade at Kiba's crouch, who paled in fear. I also warned anyone who peeps on us will be castrated, or get a knife stuck up their vaginas. After hearing this, all of them paled and held their private areas, scared of what the two expecting mothers could do. Sakura was gonna try and calm them down. Hold up. We just came here to wish Tenten a happy birthday. Where's Inari? He's at the academy now, Tsunami said, lowering the raging storm that would have been. She then made a happy face. It's Ten-chan's birthday. Well, that's great. Let's celebrate. I thought I told you guys I didn't want a birthday surprise, Tenten said, looking at Lee and Neji. They shook their arms vigorously and pointed at Tsunami. But it was Tsunami-san's idea. She found out from us that your birthday was today and wanted us to give you this, Neji said, but Lee shouted for his speech. Tenten looked at Tsunami in disbelief. Tsunami-chan, did you really? She asked bluntly, and the blue hair nodded. I was gonna go out and buy some ice cream after seeing if husband came back, but then we got caught up with loving him that I almost forgot, she said sheepishly, holding her head in embarrassment. In fact, I better go buy some. Tsunami got her sandals on and walked out the door, walking out to the market. Wait, I'll go with you. Tenten gets on her ninja shoes and hurries on after her. But before she gets ready to catch up, she turns behind to talk with the others. We'll be back. You guys just make sure Naruto is awake when we come back. And don't take our stuff. And with that, she leaves. Well, I guess we wait. So, Sakura pauses when she sees Ino lifting up the towel over Naruto's private area, about to probably rape him. Ino, you pig, what are you doing? She screams, causing the pig to look back. Oh, I was just sorry. She blushes brightly, thinking she could get one look and compare from last time. The others sighed, wondering why Naruto was as lucky. Ino, you're such a perverted bitch, Sakura muttered, as the blonde girl growled at her. Tenten and Tsunami. Well, that was easy, Tenten said, carrying a bag with a box of ice cream they can eat. So, you think we should raise our children as their mothers? I mean, I become the second mother to your child and you be the second mother to my twins. Tsunami nods. Of course. I would want nothing else than to help mother your children. I have tons of experience. She said, as they walked down the road for their house. But as they were walking, Tenten soon noticed 5 figures coming towards them. Tenten informs Tsunami about it, and the two of them led the bums back to a certain alleyway. The girls came to a stop as they reached a dead end, then turned to face them. Both of them saw they were just a bunch of fat bastards. Booze literally oozed out from their stubby big-lipped mouths, and they were each holding some sort of rope. Hey Lukey boys. It seems we cornered some pretty ladies here. What do ya think we should do? The leader said, the one with a cowboy hat on. One of them gaped and pointed at the girls. Oi, I've seen them before. Those are the broads that sleep with that demon brat. He said, as the others gained a devious smile on their faces. Tenten knew things were gonna be tough, so she pulled out a scroll from in between her unsealing a kusarigama from within. Well, boys. It seems we get to have our way with 2 real good The leader proclaimed, looking at Tsunami who was behind Tenten. Tsunami, just stand back. I can handle these bastards. They don't deserve us running from them after what they said about Naruto. Tenten said, getting ready to teach some bums a lesson. Tsunami nods, totally agreeing on punishment. Naruto. Naruto somehow wakes up instantly, looking around to find that his room was full of his ninja nakama. But he had a serious look on his face. Where are Tenten and Tsunami? Neji was the first to notice him away, and handed him new boxers and his shorts. Oh, they went to get some ice cream for Tenten-san's birthday. And no one went with them. Aho! He yelled, gaining the attention of everyone in the room. In a split second he put his boxers on with his shorts and jet out the house, heading cluelessly for his wives. Why do I know where they are? And how did I sense this? One of them charged forward with an iron stick. Tenten threw her scythe at his weapon, wrapping around it to get full control over the object. She then pulls it towards her, ripping the stick out of his hand, and then leaps at the guy with a kunai stab to the nuts. After he passes out and dies from major loss of blood, she removes her knife, and his body, and points both weapons at the others, who were now hesitant to go at the ninja. What are you standing around for? It's just one girl, the leader shouted, bringing his steel back out. The others picked up their weapons and slowly approached Tenten, who only kept her look of hatred on her face. These guys are weak. I can take she thought, but suddenly felt something. She gripped her stomach in pain, figuring the babies were messing around in her stomach pain. Damn it. Not now, she screamed in her head, holding her stomach in pain. Tsunami caught on to her act, and realized what was going on. Tenten, you have to stop. Oh. She got whacked in the stomach by a wooden pole, knocking her back to the wall. Tenten looked back in shock at the blue hair, still trying to comprehend why she can't even hold herself up. Shit. Like this I can't even use my jutsus. She was cut from her thoughts when one of the guys grabbed her head and slammed her into the ground facing it. Another took Tsunami and held her in place. Well, that wasn't so hard. You guys have fun with Bluenet. Meatball head's mine. The top dog spoke, while 2 of the others took Tsunami and pushed her to the wall, pulling down her pants and panties. The last underling began to remove Tenten's clothes, as both girls began to cry for help. But Tenten stopped as she soon spotted someone coming down to where the action was, and deliver a strike to the back of Tenten's offender, knocking him out cold. Naruto. Where are they? Naruto rushed throughout the village, tracking down his defenseless wives so no one would decide to try anything. He crossed by every corner and alleyway so far and still no sign of them. But then he caught a certain smell, and made his way through the jungle within the Leaf Village. I think they're here, he said, making a left turn into a darker alley place. There he could see 4 guys holding down 2 girls, screaming for their lives. Nope, that's not them. But I can't let them get hurt either. Back with Tenten and Tsunami. Hi Hinata. Both women couldn't believe their eyes, Standing before them was the bitch that had tried to rape their husband only so long ago, and was helping them out. She was wearing her usual clothes, and standing on top of the bum she attacked. All the other bastards began to look in fear at the Hyuga heiress. "Oh shit, it's a Hyuga," one of them said. Two grabbed their dead buddies and fled for their lives, leaving their leader alone to face the terror of three women. Hinata looked into his eyes, Byakugan activated. She wasn't letting this one go. "Now, hold on a second. Let's just take it easy." He wasn't even able to plead for mercy, as Hinata struck his enlarged belly, making blood shoot out from his mouth. Just as his body plopped to the floor, Naruto made it there, running in to see his former stalker do in a bum to save his wives. "Hinata, Ome." Naruto was speechless. Why did she do that was the question in his head. It was as well as Tenten and Tsunami, who had gotten over the pain from earlier. "Naruto," they both said, slowly rising to their trembling feet. They each ran to him, hugging the blonde as tight as they could, washing all their tears onto his body. Tenten though was completely silent, while Tsunami was confessing sorrow like he was a pastor. Hinata turned around to walk away. "Hold up," Naruto shouted, causing Hinata to look back almost coldly. He turned to face her. Why did you help them? Think of it as an apology for trying to rape you." "I'm sorry," the Hyuga confessed, as tears came streaming down her eyes, though not as much as the preggies. Naruto just stared with neutral emotions. "I know what I did was bad, and was so evil I should be dispelled from my entire clan, but can you just find it in your heart to forgive a foolish girl?" After hearing her speech, it left Tsunami as lipless as Naruto. Tenten was kinda out of it, still staring off into space. "Hinata, I'm not sure I understand your feelings for me exactly. But seeing as how you've made more than a good enough apology, I guess we can call it even. Gomen for hitting you in the back of the head." This was what he said outside his mind. Inside he was so happy he could drink pee. Hinata was blushing madly, having been forgiven of her crimes by her lovable idol. Sure. She then vanished, leaving the three to look over one another. "Guess it all works out in the Naruto," Tenten interrupted, letting loose even more tears from her eyes onto his shirtless body. Both other parties looked at her in shock. I've never felt so weak before. I was here, and yet I couldn't do a damn thing." Naruto could understand what she was saying clearly. She has never felt so vulnerable in her life before, as far as he could understand and have known her, and being unable to fight when she has no choice just seems to be taboo to her. "Tenten, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Is there any way I can help you feel better?" he asked, looking deep into her thick, brown eyes. She looked up at him and nodded. "Yes. Help me find his home. I want him to suffer the 3 acts of kunoichi torture." And with an evil look evident upon her deranged face, she and the others went to work. That night at home, while rape is a serious crime, I really don't like what he's about to get to him tomorrow morning. Naruto said, while he looked at both his wives. All 3 of them were stark, after having a big party with the others who have all left. Though it was troublesome that Hinata didn't show up, it was still fun. Afterwards, they came upstairs, and ended up like this. "It's nothing to worry about. We would never do something like that to you, Naruto. Besides, if you want to complain, go to Tsunade-sama, who taught me it." Tenten said, hoping to cheer him up. Naruto paled even more, thinking over what would happen to the Arrow Sennin as he were ever to get caught peeping on her again. He was brought out of his thoughts when Tenten and Tsunami began to rub his testicles. "Oh, are you afraid we'll hurt you, husband? How's about we cheer you up?" Tsunami offered, kissing his erection's head and ing right on the tip. Tenten joined in and inhaled one of his nuts, wiggling the other in her hands. Naruto began to moan in extreme pleasure, as each girl played with his most personal organ. "Oh, yeah, I'm about to come," he said, as he let loose a shout. The girls let go of his as it let loose its contents within on their faces. It started out in a few, only barely coming onto Tenten's face. She easily licked some of it up, both disappointed in his lack of energy, until more came out. This time it was a large amount, shooting onto Tsunami's chest and splashing onto her large S. Oh, Tsunami. You've got cum all over your body. Let me clean that up with my wet sponge. Tenten said seductively, as she proceeded to slide her tongue up and down Tsunami's soft mountains of flesh. Oh yes. That's it, Tenten. Tsunami cried, rubbing her hands up and down her husband's other wife's S. It gave off positive feedback, as Tenten began to moan in the same loudness as the brunette. Move a bit, Tenten. I wanna get in a share. Naruto began to lick Tsunami's, making the already noisy woman make more sounds of pleasure come out of her mouth. Just as Tenten finished slurping up all the cum on her chest, she and Tsunami went on to kissing one another. In the corner, a Naruto clone was writing down everything clearly. More, I'm coming, Tsunami yelled, removing her mouth from Tenten's as she began to reach a climax as Naruto was pumping 2 fingers in her cunt. I gotta pee too. With a final fry, Tsunami began to release liquids from her body, as Naruto kept his mouth open, with his eyes closed. He should have kept them open though, as what came from her body wasn't her womanly juice, but her womanly piss. Urine expelled from her third and smallest hole, streaming inside Naruto's mouth like a fountain. His face cringed a bit as he began to wonder why did she taste sorta weird. His eyes sprung open, and looked at what he was drinking, seeing pee going in his mouth and finally stop coming out. His face went from confused to stupid. Tenten didn't notice, but Tsunami knew that she did that. She was about to apologize too. Naruto, oh look, you're all wet now. Let me clean you up, he said, licking his tongue up and down his wife's. Tsunami's face looked amazed. She was half expecting him to scold or yell at her. Her face went to happy, seeing that he really does love her that much. She just went back to moaning in pleasure from reaction to his actions, as he switched from licking hers to Tenten's as well and vice versa. After all 3 crazed humans laid on their bed, both girls laying beside both sides of Naruto's body with him reading over what they read. Well, we did quite well. We should get some major spending cash with this, he said, smiling like a baka. Tenten sighed as she gripped his arm along with Tsunami. Wow, this is a great accomplishment we have done with each other. It's really helped us come to share you better, Tsunami said, looking up at him. Like the time we found out about Kyuubi. Remember that? Tenten brought back up Furball, making Naruto scuff up in reaction. How can I not? It's when I realized how much you two really loved me, Naruto said, going back into his mind to think over the event. Flashback. Naruto was sitting within the living room of Tezuna's home back months before he got word of Tsunami and Tenten carrying his children. Right with him were both girls and Inari. He had something to tell them. What was so important that you had to bring us together, Naruto-kun? Tsunami asked, sitting with her son next to Tenten on a couch. I have been holding something in for too long, and I just want to let you 3 know out of everyone else in my life that doesn't. It's such a big deal that the Sandaime made it an S-class secret that it was not to be spoken of except by me when I was to find out. Naruto explained, feeling that familiar thing inside of him called sadness coming up. The other 3 looked at him, wondering what was so bad that it couldn't be spoken of. What is it, Naruto-ni-san? Inari asked, not really sure what was the big idea. Do you know what he's talking about? Tsunami asked Tenten, who only shrugged. Nope. But I suspect this has something to do with his childhood, why he was abandoned by every citizen and even some shinobi a lot older than he is. Tenten figured. You're right, it is part of that reason. Tenten, what do you know of the Kyuubi no Yoko? Naruto asked, looking towards her with fearful eyes. She took a minute to think about it, then gasped. Oh, isn't that the demon menace that almost destroyed our village, I think, 15 years ago? Yeah, it was unbeatable to all that opposed it except when the Yondaime Hokage stepped in and ended him. She explained, remembering what she learned in history class. Tsunami was amazed by the creature mentioned and wondered what would this country do if a demon of that magnitude were to attack them. Inari was just looking at Naruto, noticing how he was still worried for some reason. But, I don't understand how this relates to what you want to say. You don't understand because they lied to you, he said, making all three of them blink and look at her. In truth, he was too powerful for the Hokage to win against. Which is why he used a secret S-class move. As he talked, all of them continued to listen, hoping to read into his words and figure out what he was saying. The demon was sealed away, into a baby boy who was only a few minutes old. It took the Yondaime's life, but spared the rest of the village. I only know about this because I was told the truth 12 years after it happened. Because, no, Tsunami yelled in horror, looking at him with a shocking expression on her face. Tenten figured it out as well, and held her right hand to her mouth, as both women stared at the man they secretly loved. Yup, I was that boy. Naruto then took his shirt off, then started collecting chakra. Once he did this, a seal appeared on his stomach. This was a spiral, with 8 marks surrounding it like a circle. Inari was at a loss for words too, now realizing why he said what he said back 3 years ago about having a bad life. Naruto stopped molding chakra and put his shirt back on. I wanted to tell you 3 specifically because I care about you guys the most. Even if your view over me changes for the worse. Baka, Tenten said, making Naruto lift his eyes up to her. He saw that her, Tsunami and Inari were all crying for some reason. Did you really think we would see you as a monster if you told us? You're not a monster. You're Naruto, always and forever. And no evil thing sealed inside of you can take your humanity away from you. She's right. We love you just for you, and nothing else. Tsunami announced, hoping her son wouldn't get the wrong idea and figure it out. It was safe to say he didn't. I don't care what you have. Far as I know, you saved our lives. Would a monster do that? Inari asked, wiping his tears away. Now it was Naruto's turn to cry, seeing as they all accept him for him. Minna. End flashback. Naruto, that only strengthened our love for you. Nothing will ever do that. Tenten said, planted a kiss on his lips. Tsunami did the same, and they all got back into it again. The next morning, OWW, a fat guy yelled, waking up to the biggest pain he's ever received in his life. He looked around and saw he was at his place, in his bedroom. Hey, must have been a dream. He figured, thinking last night's events were just a part of his mind. But his thoughts diminished when he saw a large boulder on his stomach. Next to it was a small note, which he picked up and read. Dearhole, your days of raping innocent girls have come to an end. For now you will face the terror of the 3 acts of kunoichi torture. The rock on you is Act 1. Hey, bunch of bullshit. It's just a boulder, he said, laughing as he lifted it up. He then looked down at himself and noticed he was as well, all the hair on his body exposed to the world. He turned to his window, which was right next to his bed for some reason, and threw it out. There, handles de a. He was suddenly pulled out the window by his testicles somehow, by something pulling him by it. He looked at the note and read it again. If you've thrown it out your window, then you've initiated Act 2. The steel wire tied to the rock in one of your balls should know what we mean. He paled for a moment, thinking this really would once he hit the ground, but soon realized he wasn't that far up. But that's when he read the last part. And once you're halfway down, you'll soon realize that begins Act 3, which ends it all. The second half of the steel wire tied to your bed and the other testicle should clarify everything. Have a good lifetime. Your torturers, Uzumaki Tenten, Uzumaki Tsunami, and Uzumaki Naru. RIP. 4 hours later, outside Konoha, the blue-haired woman opened her eyes to see before her. She was still lying in her bed like last night, only something was missing. Looking at her left, she saw her arm draped around an empty spot reserved for her husband. Oh my love, where are you? She whispered to herself, then looked to her right and spotted her man's second wife, a brown-haired girl, waking up as well. Oi, Chiru, where's Kazuki? She asked, letting her left hand go down her. Her right pulled the covers off of them, exposing their bodies to the room. I don't know, Tokiko. I woke up and he was gone. Let's find. The blue hair began, but then the door flew open to expose a completely man walking in with a tray of sliced fruit. Oh Himes, I have a little surprise for you. You first, Tokiko, Kazuki said, placing the tray on the nightstand and picking up a cut piece of mango. The blue hair didn't hesitate to spread her legs open, as he placed his 9-inch by her thick, wet folds. He pumped inside of her, causing the woman to moan in extreme pleasure. Oh yes, yes, me harder, she cried. Oh how he loved to hear her screams, for each one has pulsated within her, bringing about the exact same amount of pleasure she was feeling then. He then rubbed the mango up and down her, making her moans grow even stronger than before. She began to wrap her legs around him, pushing herself along with his thrusts to increase the feelings. Oh how I would love to go through that as many times as I feel like it. Chiru said, warming herself up with the apple slice he brought up. She already had 2 in her vagina pumped by her right hand, and a vibrating 6-inch dildo in her. I'm about to come. Oh, God, I'm coming. Tokiko screamed, squirting her lovely juices all over his and the bed sheets. I'm about to as well. He yelled, going in faster and deeper. Soon he made a loud yell in. Karen. As this voice sounded, a girl within her room dropped the book she was currently reading, looking back to see that someone called her. She sighed, and put on her white medic jacket, walking out to see who called her. She came to a rather large room, and saw someone before her. He was wearing the regular sound uniform, well actually the one the former Sound 4 in the late Orochimaru wore. On his waist laid a guardless katana. He was obviously Uchiha Sasuke, Fear of the Snake Man. There you are. What are you doing? We have to go find my brother. His eyes wandered across her figure, and began to notice something up with her. She was blushing, her pants were wet, 2 bumps were visible on her chest where her S came to the top, and she had a book in her hand. You were reading porn? No. Yeah, she confessed. For some reason she just couldn't bring herself to lie to Sasuke, the man she recently fell in love with. It's a new book that came out months ago. It became world famous within weeks after it was first published. I don't know why, but even skimming through it made my cooch soaked. Sasuke took the book, and looked it over, and instantly paled. Doby, what's he doing in here? He yelled, figuring out the lead player just by looking through the pages. The pictures of the guy making love to his 2 wives was, to him, without a doubt, Naruto, the same guy who had almost defeated him back at the Valley of the End. And here he was, as the lead male role in a series of erotic novels written by girls. Hey wait, I know these names. Tsunami. Hey, that's the blue-haired mother from Waven. Tenten. Isn't she the female teammate of Lee? Why are they in this thing, or even putting him in it? Sasuke was fuming for some reason. On one hand this would take Naruto's mind off of him for a while enough to handle his brother, but he still felt jealous. In his mind he was mad because Naruto was getting so much from extremely horny broads. Who's Doby? Karen asked, looking up at him. Oh, it's just some guy the first knew before I left. You know him. Can you get him to autograph my manga? She practically screamed in his ear, causing him to go deaf for a while. Lucky bastard. Oh well. While he's fooling around I'll become extremely powerful. 4 months later. What the hell? Naruto asked himself, as he stood before his supposed friend, Sasuke. He was holding a katana in his hand while Naruto had a kunai. Hey there Doby, he said cheerfully. Naruto wasn't convinced though, especially since this was the same guy who tried to him. What's wrong? No hi, oheo, oi. I thought we were friends. Why else did I spare you? What are you doing here? Naruto asked, picking his teeth with his knife. I'm just here to ask something. Did you Itachi? The Uchiha asked plainly. Naruto shook his head. Not really. I just incapacitated him. He won't be using his eyes anymore, and probably exiled himself from being around others. He confessed, smirkingly. Look, I don't have time to spend with you. I have to be somewhere. Elsewhere. Oh, Tsunami said, as liquid splashed onto the floor under her. She was at home with Tenten and Tsunade cleaning when she spilled water out from her cunt. What? Tsunade and Tenten looked at her. She began to grab her legs, letting out painful moans. I think my water broke. Nani? Tsunade and Tenten yelled, pulling her down to a couch. She nodded yes and cried out some more.